I stopped touring for quite a while, but we started doing this Gypsy Swing stuff a number of years ago, just for a bit of fun originally. Got involved in doing some local charity shows, and then other people who had jazz clubs said, "Why don't you come and play here?" So we did that. We kind of enjoyed it. So we recorded a couple of albums, which did pretty well. And then we thought, well, it'd be nice just now and again, not too frequently, to go here and there around the country. So we've been in New Zealand a couple of times and the eastern states, but this is the first time since 2015 we've been over to New South Wales. So that'll be very exciting.
Tell me a little bit about what it is that you're doing. What's the gypsy swing that you talk of?
Well, Gypsy Swing is a fairly modern name to describe a music which began in Paris way back in the early 1930s, 1930s, about 1932. Uh, Gypsy guitarist called Django Reinhardt, a young guy, wonderful player, got together with Stefan Grappelli. They were both interested in this new American music, jazz music, and they wanted to start playing that. So they formed a small acoustic group, three guitars, Django's solo guitars, two rhythm guitars, bass, and violin. It became a very big success, and Django became a kind of star, really. Bit of a character by all accounts, but nevertheless, uh, and that music was quite influential, and particularly the way Django played, because he incorporated some techniques in his playing which modern guitarists use, rock and blues players, even jazz players, the use of octaves. He did that quite often. Bending strings, which was pretty uncommon at the time, if at all common. And a finger vibrato, which a lot of modern players use. You know, it's not like a classical where you sort of roll it sideways. You have to push sort of up and down to make the string get a vocal type vibrato.
Right.
But he introduced all those techniques, and a lot of modern guitarists, including rock and blues guitarists, will often point to Django and say, well, he was actually one of the guys that I really thought was wonderful and influenced me in some ways, you know. So anyway, the music itself, it's a combination of swing music and sometimes Latin influenced music. And what I like about the gypsy jazz music is that it's got some really good tunes. I love tunes. You know, I like playing a tune. They're good tunes. And then we have obviously we have improvisation and sections. But for the most part, Sandy, we have rearranged these numbers. We don't copy the original arrangements because we come from different backgrounds in music, the four of us in the quartet, and our influences come to bear in the way we treat the music. I'm happy to say that it gets a really good response from audiences and even musos who think we're nuts. They say, "How do you work those arrangements out? You must all be mad."
Because they're so unconventional.
A bit different, yeah, from what you'd expect in that form of
Right,
music.
right.
We believe we retain the essence of the music, but add something new and modern to it.
And when did you first become influenced by his style of playing?
I first heard Django way back in about 1957 in Newcastle. Just a little bit. Then when I was 17, living in London, I bought an LP. And I was amazed at the musicianship, but the sound was awful. It was all thin and tinny, and I was into rock and roll then and heavier bass sounds and everything. And then I discovered in more recent years that those early recordings were made on substandard quality material, hence the bad sound. Because the next batch of recordings had a much better quality sound. You could hear the tone of the guitar better and the violin. But in terms of influence, getting back to your question, it was probably around the time, but 2001, I was recording an album called Guitar Player, which was basically an acoustic album. Instead of playing electric as the lead instrument, I was on acoustic. And I started listening to Django and some of the more modern gypsy jazz players and thought, I've got to get one of those guitars. So I bought a gypsy jazz guitar from the USA, it was made in France. And I used that in most of the tracks. And it was a hugely successful album for me. And it, through 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 making that album and starting to listen to Django again, I started to feel his influence. In I love the vibrato and just the use of octaves, all those little techniques he used. So I started to think, well, perhaps I could bring a little bit of that into this music I was doing. And then following that, Sandy, we one of my colleagues, Gary Taylor, who's played quite a few of my albums, bass guitar or rhythm guitar, he got together with me. We thought, hey, let's learn a few of these numbers, just for a bit of fun. So we started doing that. We then were heard playing by some people who said, why don't you come and play at this charity concert I'm doing? So we did that two or three times. Other people were there and said, why don't you come and play at my jazz club? We did that. And it sort of snowballed. And we formed a group. And the group we have is two guitars, Gary and myself, an accordion, Nunzio Mondia, a wonderful musician. He's played on quite a lot of my solo albums on keyboards and accordion. He's a fabulous accordion player and a double bass. And so it's basically acoustic music, which obviously we have to amplify to be heard, but it's basically acoustic. No drums, no horns. And it's, as I said, the music is basically based on swing music, but there is some Latin influence in some of their compositions, which we use.
Mm. Mm. Hank, I can hear a lot of guitar players who are watching this currently thinking to themselves or asking, how difficult is it to adopt those techniques of Django Reinhardt and start improvising? Can you share that for them?
Yes, to a degree anyway. I know quite a few people similar to myself who are uh, more involved in rock or blues or whatever, who are also like to try to play a bit of gypsy jazz. And we usually all find it a little bit more difficult at first. The feel is different. We're playing on gypsy jazz guitars, which are a slightly longer scale. In other words, the distance from the bridge to the end of the neck is longer than a normal guitar.
Right.
That presents a little bit of an initial difficulty. And then the way the gypsies play with their right hand is quite different from most modern players. They use a lot of downstrokes and they get a great sound out of the guitar. So to try to emulate that takes a bit of time. I kind of have a bit of um, a combination of the gypsy technique and a normal, what they call alternate picking technique for guitarists, up and down. Um, but the next thing is the feel, because most of us are playing rock and roll and blues, and it's a different feel to swing music or even Latin. So we've now got the best thing to do for anyone who wants to try to play this music is to listen, and you start getting the feel of the music. I found the swing thing relatively easy because when I was living in my hometown of Newcastle, and on the radio when I was a kid, we used to hear the big bands playing. Benny Goodman, all those bands of the day, Glenn Miller and so forth, and most of that was swing music. So I used to play in a trad jazz band when I was 15 on a banjo, so I had that feel for the swing music. That wasn't too bad. But then it's the improvisation. You can't just start improvising like you're playing a rock solo or a blues solo. It's got a different feel to it.
It almost sounds like it'd be easier if you didn't have a rock background at all, if you came without any preconceived ideas or formed habits and started playing guitar afresh like this, if that's what you wanted to do. Is that the case, or having the background is still going to be easier to transition into this?
That's a very good point, actually, Sandy. I think if you started off like this, for example, I've been to France quite a few times and gone to what was called the Samoa, the Django Festival at Samoa, and you get a lot of real European gypsies there. Some of them wonderful music, and you see kids of like 8 years old with a guitar almost as big as them, and you go, wow, they've started playing when they're about 4 years old. But then they're right into that music. So yes, if you start off in that music, I think it would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
But having said that, most of the modern players who like myself who try to play this form of music, we still got a grounding music and we have a feel for it, like the timing and melody and things like this. So that is an asset. We already have that experience. That is an asset, and we just do the best we can. And it kind of works, We get lovely responses from our audiences, and even funny enough, we've had a couple of gypsy musicians who've seen us play, when they've been over here. They've really enjoyed it. They love what we do with the music. So that gives us a good feeling that we're doing something right.
Yeah. Is this a case of everything old is new again?
A bit like that. A bit like that, yeah. You know what's interesting, Sandy? When we do these shows, a lot of the people who come along would be Shaz fans, and they haven't got a clue
What you're
what
going to do?
to do. Some do. They bought our two CDs and they have an idea and they like it. But and so talking to individuals after, they'll say, we didn't have any idea what this is all about, and we love it. Why have we heard this before? So that is a great reward for us that they come in just with no expectation and they go out feeling happy. And that's as a performer, that's what you want to do with an audience. So, and you know what I think is good about this music? It's got tunes, melodies, things like it's not far out and it's not indulgent like a lot of jazz. We don't go on improvising for like half an hour or something. So
Yeah.
people
It,
are enjoying it in the seats.
yeah. I mean, it's always difficult though to keep an audience's attention with instrumental music at the best of times, isn't it? So with the addition of good tunes and melodies and stuff, then you've got them eating out of the palm of your hand.
Oh yeah, look, we obviously because of my career, I've had a lot of experience of audiences and performing mainly instrumentals. Yes, some vocals, but mainly instrumentals. And if it's done right, if the tunes are good and it's played well, the arrangements are good, it keeps their interest. And also you can entertain your audience by having some fun with them. So everyone has a laugh, it's not all serious music. It's good fun.
Sounds awesome, Hank. And obviously, the key to your youthfulness is to continue to reinvent yourself and continue to challenge yourself to learn new things. I guess that's pretty an important thing, right?
There's drugs and rock and roll. No,
Love.
you're quite right, Seth. I think many of us in our industry, I'm sure you're the same. We've got a very youthful attitude, haven't we, really? We still think we're sort of 21 years old, although we're not, but we think young. We still have the enthusiasm. We enjoy life. We enjoy people and performing for them. And I actually enjoy meeting people too, because we meet a wonderful variety of people. Some of them are, they're young, they're old. Some have got funny questions to ask you, which oh, I love being told, for example, oh, you went to school with my brother in Wolverhampton. And for those who in Australia don't know where Wolverhampton is, it's a town in the industrial part of the Midlands in the UK. I've never lived there in my life. You went to school with my brother. No, I didn't go there. I grew up in Newcastle. No, no. He told me you sat next to him at school, and they will argue with you and they believe you're lying. And it's wonderful when you get this. You cannot believe it. You say, "Right, give me."
Well, for all those people who want to see you playing Gypsy Jazz on your East Coast tour, Friday the 19th of next month at the Harmonia German Club in Canberra, Sunday the 21st at the Lounge, the Concourse in Chatswood in Sydney, Wednesday the 24th at the Flamingos Live in Newcastle, and Thursday the 25th at the J Centre in Noosa in Queensland. It's going to be an absolute treat. Hank Marvin, because everywhere you play, everywhere you go, you just go down like a treat. Audiences can't get enough of you. So we're very glad that you're back on the road again and continuing to delight audiences all over Australia.
Thank you, Sandy. And I tell you what, I'm trembling with excitement to get to those places.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be just wonderful for you. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. It's been a pleasure as always, and wishing you, I don't need to wish you continued success because it's just inevitable.
Oh, look, Sandy, thanks for having me on the show. It's been lovely to talk with you too, and I wish you all the very best in the future with your show. Take care.